Yo, what's good on today's video? I got part 3 of how to make um plants versus let's say still Brainrot. Plants versus Brainrots and stuff. Sorry for the delay, guys. I'd be busy with school, so just be patient. Next part's gonna come out, but yeah, just gotta be patient and stuff. And just give me some time. So, added probably what people have been waiting for the most is an NPC spawn system. People are also talking about this. Again, guys, please do remember, I like a lot of the stuff you guys are gonna ask me to do, I probably will do if it's like a basic thing that like basic mechanic in the game. So just be patient, right? Like I had already planned to add a player spawner for each base. So like, when you spawn in, it'll automatically spawn you, at your base. Um, so then I added an NPC folder to keep track of NPCs for each base, and then I added an NPC spawn system. So the NPCs will spawn over here. It'll randomly choose one of the, you guys remember our spawners, right? These right, so it'll choose one of these to randomly spawn at, right? And then it'll spawn there, and then what it'll do is a for loop will iterate through all the lanes, and then it'll pretty much look to see all the lanes the player currently has purchased, and then it'll randomly choose one of the lanes. If the player only has one lane, then it'll just, always the Brainrots will just always go to that one lane. If they have no lanes, if they haven't purchased any lane, um then they just won't spawn until the player purchases a lane, right? So yeah, so I added the spawn system. So this is very complex, and this is probably one of the most important parts of the game. Honestly, probably the most important part. So please, please, please pay attention and rewatch the video if need be. 'Cause I can already see people getting confused and stuff. Okay, so before we even get into that, the one thing I want to do is go ahead and do this. So this last note I have, disable join services, delete all current welds. So there's an issue where pretty much when we get to a part of the scripts, the coding and stuff, where like we're going to set the network ownership of the NPC parts. Pretty much that won't work if any of your NPCs parts have welds, like are welded to anything, right? So what was going on with me was that it wasn't the NPCs, it was actually like the base parts. They automatically had like these welds inside of it because like I had join services turned on. If you have this enabled, what it'll do is it'll automatically add welds every time you create a part. So that's happened to me. So make sure you delete all welds that obviously you don't need, and like make sure they're not conflicting, because that will cause issues with the script and stuff. So make sure you disable join services and delete all current welds. You can delete all current welds by just simply typing weld into the Explorer tab, and then you'll see all the matches. You would click one, you would hold the control key bind on your keyboard, CTRL for short, and then you would just left click. You would just hold that and just continue to left click all of the welds, and then just delete them and stuff. Or you can do it one by one. It's up to you. I wouldn't understand why you'd want to do that, but yeah. So from there, then we're going to go ahead and move. All right, sorry guys, so we're back. Okay, so like I was saying, so yeah, so make sure all the welds are deleted and stuff. Once you're done, let's go ahead and let's do some things with the base. Then we'll just move to the scripting. Okay, because yeah, pay very close attention. As you can see, the NPC folder is already created. I'll go through all of that and everything with you guys. So don't worry. I'll break down everything you need. So just make sure you do everything exactly as I do it, unless I tell you you can do your own thing. Or unless you know what unless you know what you're doing, which most of y'all don't, no offense. But anyway, so moving on, we have base one over here, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to insert a folder into base one. So click the plus icon right here. You're going to type folder. You're going to insert a folder. You can name this folder. You can name this folder NPCs and stuff, which I'm pretty sure self-explanatory. The NPCs we spawn into the game for that particular base are going to be parented to this specific folder. This way we can keep track of like which NPCs belong to, which base and stuff. And then like for when the player leaves the game, we'll just we could destroy all the current NPCs, but actually, I think in the actual game they just leave them and stuff until they eventually are just destroyed. So I don't think it really would matter. But yeah, so this folder will keep track of all the NPCs in the game for this specific base, of course, not all of the NPCs in the entire game, just for this specific base. Then we need our player spawner. So you're going to insert a new part, right? So just scale it, regular part, right? And then you can put this wherever you want. Doesn't matter, put it wherever you want. I'm just going to put it like in the middle of like where the platforms would be. I'm going to set the transparency to 1. Anchor it, disable can't collide, right? And then I'm just going to rename it to player spawn, right? Then I'm going to drag this into the base, make sure it is parented to inside of the base, and then we're just going to make it so that when the players, like when it assigns the player to this base, it'll automatically teleport them here. And then like if they die, and then like when they die and stuff, it'll send them back. there. So, yep, that's all the changes outside of that. So, I guess before we even get into the coding, I guess let's talk about NPCs. Okay, so inside of server storage, right? I know this looks like a lot. Just trust me, guys, we're gonna break this down very, very carefully. So, inside of server storage, plus icon, insert a folder. You're going to rename that folder to be NPC folder. Now, inside of the folder, keep in mind, these are three different NPCs, right? Now, inside of the NPC folder, you're going to click the plus icon. You're going to insert another folder into that folder. You're going to name that folder whatever the name of the NPC is, whatever the name of the Brainrot is, whatever you want to call it, right? You're going to give it a name. I just took the name from like Still a Brainrot. I'm literally using this for my Still a Brainrot series, right? So then, inside of said folder, you're going to need four different things. The first three are very simple. The fourth one is the one that requires work. Okay, so these first two things, these are, as you guys can see by the icon, these are just values, right? Health, money per second, rarity. So health and money per second are number values, right? All you gotta do, plus icon on the folder, type num, insert number value. You're going to want to rename one of those values to health. Now, health I feel like is pretty self-explanatory. This is going to be the amount of HP the NPC has, like how much they have to get hit before they die. You can set this number to whatever you want it to be. It doesn't matter, right? Then your second number value, rename it to money per second, which again, self-explanatory. This is if the player is able to kill the NPC and they choose to place it on one of the platforms and stuff, this is how much money it's going to generate them per second, right? So money per second, and then you can set this value again to whatever you want it to be. It's up to you. Then lastly, this is a string value. So plus icon, you're going to insert a string value into that folder, right? And then you're going to want to rename it to rarity. And again, it's just the rarity of the NPC. This is just simply for classification purposes, so players can know like, oh, how rare this NPC is, and for when we get to the index system, where you can see all the NPCs you have, and all the NPCs in the game, and then see the ones you have and everything, and sort them by rarity and everything. So set the rarity to whatever you want it to be. It doesn't matter. Whatever rarity system you follow, it doesn't matter. Like if you do common, gold, silver, bronze, like, it doesn't matter, right? Now, for this fourth thing, rig. This is very important because a lot of people miss this with my Still a Brainrot series. So listen and listen up. If you are using a custom rig, a custom model, like something that's not like a regular role, like let me show you guys what this looks like, right? This is a regular Roblox like avatar rig, right? You see this? Like this is a default thing, right? It doesn't have to look like this because let me show you real quick. If I go and grab the other one, you notice how this one has like, yeah, you see it has clothes in here, yeah, right? It doesn't have to be this default rig, right? But the point is and stuff, if you're using a custom rig, you have to figure out how to make it work. Don't ask me to make a video on how to, because each custom rig is different. Each custom rig has its own parts and stuff. Some custom rigs have heads, some don't. Some have arms, some don't. Some have tentacles. Like it's different. So there is no one solution fits all. So if you're using custom rigs, you have to figure out how to make your custom rigs work for the game. If you're using basic rigs like this and stuff, if you just want to figure out how to add rigs and stuff just for the sake of testing, you just click avatar at the top up here, then just rig builder, and then I choose block avatar, but it's up to you guys, and then you can select all the details and stuff you want. So yeah, that's it. That's how I inserted this, right? So we have this rig, right? So what you want to do is, right, once you have your rig is just another word for, like, we're just gonna say NPC, like what the NPC looks like essentially, right? So I keep in mind I pulled it out of the folder because I want to show you guys, right? So you're gonna want to rename it. This is very important. Make sure you name the rig the word rig, which the model, right? Clearly, like all the parts inside of it, like it's grouped together into this one thing, this one model. So make sure it's named rig, because what it's gonna do is when it like goes for the chance system for like, okay, which NPC should I spawn? It's going to look for whatever, it's going to look for the thing inside of the NPC folder that's named rig. They all need to be the same name, right? Or else we'd have to specify for each individual rig. So make sure you name it rig. Now, inside of the rig, very important things. Let's go over those. First things first, you need to obviously make sure, like I said, make sure there are no welds inside the NPC. Make sure there are no weld constraints. Oh, I don't know if weld constraints apply, but I know welds. Make sure there are no welds inside of the NPC. Now, if it's working just fine and you do have welds, then by all means ignore what I'm saying. But that aside, okay. So first things first, you need NPC name. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna click the plus icon, insert a string value, rename it to NPC name, and then this is a given. You're just gonna set the name to whatever the NPC name is. Now, make sure it matches It's case sensitive. Make sure if something is capitalized with the folder, make sure it's capitalized for the string value, like, for the NPC name. These names should match and stuff. If you're wondering why we have an NPC name value inside of the rig when we already have the name here, it's because keep in mind the rig is going to be cloned and reparented to the NPC's base, so we won't know like what the name of the NPC is and stuff. Aside from like obviously the UI above its head, but it's much more reliant to have a value that keeps track of it. So yeah, so you're just gonna set that to the name, right? Then for the next thing, inside of the head, we have this thing called info GUI. This is a billboard GUI, right? It's a lot of stuff, but we're just going to go through it. So inside of the head, you're going to want to insert, click the plus icon, billboard GUI. We've done this, I think we did this before. Yeah, we did that. Yeah, we did that over there. But yeah, so you're going to insert a billboard GUI, rename it to info GUI. Now it is very important that you do this the way I did it, or else it's gonna have like weird scaling issues where like if you walk away, it's gonna like the size is gonna change and stuff. Unless you know what you're doing, because there are some people who have commented on my videos where they know what size to set it to prevent those issues. So if you know what you're doing, by all means, go ahead. So for the properties, right, you're gonna set the Adorny to be at the player's head. So just literally just click this and then just set it to head, right? Boom. You want to obviously make sure it's enabled, 0, 0, and then that's stuff by default usually. You want to disable reset on spawn. Make sure reset on spawn is not enabled, and these are the size properties. So as you can see, 10, 0, 6, 0. So scale is 10 for X, and then scale for Y is 6, right? That's the size property. Size offset is 0 by 1, and then stud offset is just 0 and stuff. Then those are the properties for my info GUI. Now, inside of the info GUI, you're going to want to have 3 text labels, right? These are just regular UI elements. So click the plus icon, just insert a text label. If you don't see it, just text label, right? Rename, like, notice you have 3 text labels for the 3 values inside of the NPC folder: health, money per second, and rarity. Or wait, sorry, sorry, I said that wrong. Not money per second. Money per second is just simply so that we can calculate how much the NPC is able to make per second. Health and rarity, right? We have health and rarity, and then obviously the name of the NPC, which is the name is inside of the NPC folder. But yeah, so you're gonna insert 3 text labels. Rename one of them to be health text label, the other one to be name, the other one to be rarity. Now you don't have to go in this exact order. The order doesn't matter. I'm just going to show you guys the properties for each one though. So health is obviously the important one because you can see we have the border and then the green. So you're going to set the background color to a nice green, background transparency to 0, border color to black, border size pixel to 5. But again though, it's up to you guys for that stuff, right? Really what's important, all you need to really do to make sure that everything is good is just the sizing. That's really just it. The sizing is really just it. But yeah, so then this is the size 1 by 0, then 0.3 by 0. That's the size, and then position is also important though. 0 by 0, and then 0.3 by 0. So boom, this is for the health text label, and then I'll just keep going. Visible by default, then bold text, rich text, white text color, scale text, text stroke color set to black, and text stroke transparency is set to 0. And then, okay, moving on to the name text label, right? Name text label, so for the name text label and rarity text label, it's a lot simpler. All you need to do is just, well, you can have a background if you want to. That's up to you guys. I'm just showing you guys the properties I went with. So this is the size 1 by 0, and then 0.3 by 0. Position is 0 by 0 by 0 by 0, right? Then this is for the name text label, and then simply down here, bold text, rich text, scale the text, white text color, black text stroke color, and then text stroke transparency is set to 0, right? Then we have the rarity text label. It's literally the same exact thing, just a different color, I think. Yeah. So background color is white, background transparency set to 1. Make sure you set the names accordingly. Rarity text label, and this is the position 0 by 0, 0.7 by 0. Size is 1 by 0, 0.30. Now you guys can change the size and position. I'm just warning you. If you don't know what you're doing, you can mess it up. But you guys are free to change that, right? Visible, then bold text, rich text, scale the text, and that's the text color and stuff. And yeah, so that's everything inside of the info GUI, right? I feel like that's pretty simple. It's a lot of stuff to do, but it's honestly very simple. You want to make sure the info G, and then obviously make sure it's named info GUI. Make sure, and then it's very important, make sure the G, U, and I are capital. Capitalization matters in programming, so make sure you follow that and stuff, right? And then just, okay, we're good. So then make sure that's parented to the head. Moving on, right? Inside of the humanoid root part, right? Well, you could put this at the human or root part of torso, it doesn't really matter. You want to insert a proximity prompt, plus icon, proximity prompt, right? So this is what players are going to be able to do, be able to pick up NPCs stuff, right? So insert the proximity prompt, you don't need to name it or anything. By default, make sure it's not enabled because you only want to enable it when the NPC is like on a platform. So just enable it, and then you can just get rid of the action text if there's any default text. I don't think there is though. I recommend setting a hold duration, and then oh, also very important. Make sure you disable requires line of sight. Yeah, make sure you disable requires line of sight. Make sure this is not checked like how mine currently is. So yeah, you're just gonna put that inside the human root part, and then I believe the last thing is just the animations. So you would just simply into the rig, you would just plus icon animation. You need a idle and a walk animation. Obviously, when the NPC is moving down the track or the lanes and stuff, they're walking, so you need an animation for that. You also need an idle animation. Idle animation is for when they're, on the platforms and just idling and stuff, right? So you can't use my animation IDs. You have to use your own animation ID. You can get animations from the toolbox. If you don't know how to get animations from the toolbox, just leave a comment down below. I'll reply with a video I have where I explain how to get free assets and stuff on using the toolbox to get and how to like publish animations and everything. So yeah. So we have our animations and stuff, and then that's for so pretty much all the information the NPC needs to like, do its job. And then yeah, that's all parented inside of the rig, and your rig should be parented inside of your NPC folder. Literally, these are literally the exact same. Obviously, the values change between them. Obviously, the values change, but yeah, they're all the same and stuff. It's the same concept and stuff. Inside the human root part, we have a proximity prompt. The head has a info GUI, and then yeah. Obviously, what I recommend doing is setting up the I recommend setting up one NPC, right? Like with everything you need, the proximity prompts, the info GUI and all that stuff, the animations, and then simply just selecting all of it. Remember, hold CTRL, the control keybind, and then just select. You would just select everything you need, and then you would just copy and just paste it into each NPC. So yeah, I feel like it's pretty simple though. Um, but yeah, so if you guys have any questions, I honestly recommend if you're confused, I recommend go watching my Still a Baron video. I think it's like part 3 where I go over the NPCs. I actually made it with people. I didn't feel like remaking all of this because I feel like this is something I could really just do like off of seeing. But yeah, so that's how you set up your NPCs and stuff. Now we got to get to the actual coding. That's just simply setting everything up inside of the NPC folder. So now let's move on to the coding. So local script will be here for about 5 seconds. So I did experience an error one time when I was testing where it said leader stats not a valid member. Pretty much leader stats hadn't loaded. So let's wait for leader stats to load. So press enter. You're simply going to say player, wait for child, leader stats. All we're simply doing is just waiting for the leader stats folder to load before we set up this function so that we can avoid any error kind of errors. Just like that, we are done. Let's move on to the server script. So first things first, we're going to need to create a variable. We're going to need to create 2 variables. So first, create a variable for the physics service. So local PHS stands for physics service is equal to game get service physics service. Now we're going to use the physics service to change collisions and stuff, which is it's very cool and stuff. I'm assuming in you guys game you don't want players to be able to like collide with NPCs and stuff, like be able to like push NPCs and stuff. You want them to be like walk through them and stuff. So you're just gonna make it so that they can't walk through, so that I mean sorry, that players can walk through NPCs and that they can't like push them or anything. You also of course gonna make it so that NPCs can't collide with other NPCs so that like if they're walking down a track they don't like push each other kind of thing. So yeah, that's what we're using the physics service for. Then we need to create a variable for our core module. We're going to need to create a module script. We're going to use a module script. A module script is similar to a server script. Simply it's just so that you can reuse functions over and over again, which is what we're going to need to do because we're going to need to reuse this stuff for like multiple things. It's like functions that are need to be used in different situations, I guess, right? So go over here where it says core script server, plus icon, insert a module script. Rename it to be core module, right? Then go back to the server script. We'll come back to that when we're done. We're going to create a variable for it now. So after the remote events, press enter, then you'll just create a variable. So core module is equal to require script.core module. Simply require just means like it's just gonna it needs this before we can proceed. It's just like another like wait for child kind of thing. It's just like we need this kind of thing. But yeah, then after that we're gonna set up a pcall, which is just a protect the call function, which pretty much just means if there are any issues with the code inside of the function, it won't like if there are any errors, it won't stop the rest of the code from executing. So we'll say pcall function close parentheses, press enter. Then inside you're just going to register collisions. PHS, which is the physics service, then you're just going to say register collision group. So you're just registering a collision group, right? Like the different groups. For our game, we're going to have players and NPCs. We don't want players and NPCs to collide with one another, right? So we're going to register a new group. We're going to call it players, right? Then you can just really copy and paste that. So select it, Control C, or just copy at the top, press enter, then Control plus V, or paste. Doesn't matter. Then obviously for our second group, we have NPCs. We have players and NPCs. right? Then after that function, so all we've done so far is create the collision groups. We need to now actually set it to where, okay, these groups cannot collide with each other. So we will simply say PHS. We will say collision group. So make sure you're choosing the right one, please, because people have chosen the wrong one before in my other series. Make sure you do collision group set collidable, right? Then it is case sensitive, so make sure it matches the exact thing. So we're gonna say players, right? Comma NPCs. So pretty much the two groups for the collisions you're changing, and then you're just going to set it to whether they're collidable. We're going to say false because we don't want them to collide with one another. Then again, just copy, next line, paste, and then for this, you're just going to change this to players to NPCs and stuff. What this pretty much just means is you don't want NPCs to collide with one another. That's simple. That's all you're saying. You just don't want NPCs to collide with one another, right? So something very simple but very useful. Then we're going to oh my bad, I did not mean to switch over to that. So then we're just gonna scroll down, right, to the player added function. We're just gonna add some stuff after the join function. So press enter, you're gonna say workspace, wait for child, player.name. We're just simply waiting for the player's character to join the game. And then pretty much what this is this is for the first time thing. So when the player first joins the game, we're waiting for the character, and then we're just gonna say player.character, pivot to base, remember their base that they were assigned to, player spawn dot c frame, and then we're moving the player to their spawn, right? Then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna do the same thing, but now we're just gonna set up a function to where every time the player dies and stuff, they reset their character, whatever the case, it's going to move them over to their spawn. So player dot character added, connect function, in parentheses put character, press enter, right? Then you can really just copy and paste this, Control C, Control V, and then you can just delete the player right here. So PLR, remember PLR is short for player. So character pivot to base that player spawn. Yep. And then lastly, right here, go after this, then you're gonna say core module dot base spawner. In parentheses, you're gonna send over the base, right? As a parameter or an argument, I should say. So pretty much we're calling the core module's base spawner function. Obviously, as you guys can see, we haven't written that yet. We're going to write that after we're done with the server script, right? The base spawner function is just simply what it's going to do is it's going to trigger a loop for the NPCs and stuff. So as long as the base is owned, it will continue to spawn NPCs and stuff. So that's going to be triggered and stuff upon the player, joining the game and after the character has loaded and everything, right? So from there, we now move to the core module. Now we're setting up the core stuff. So we're just going to rename this to the core module. Go down here and then just the names have to match top and bottom, so core module, boom. Then make sure you stay in between the variable core module and then the return, right? So first things first, we're going to create a table. So local NPCs is equal to special brackets, press enter, right? Then special brackets again. Now, what you're going to say is this is very important. So you need to make a line for each NPC inside of your NPC folder. You need a line for each individual NPC, right? So what you're gonna do is you're gonna say model is equal to NPC. Oh my bad, actually, I'm stupid. I forgot. We have to create a variable for the NPC folder. So go to the top, press enter, right? Then you're just gonna say local NPC folder, and then remember that's what we created. So game dot server storage wait for child NPC folder, right? And then we're just gonna come back here, and then now we're gonna say NPC folder wait for child. We need to wait for the NPCs to load, and then I'm just gonna go TimG. It doesn't matter the order you're going. It doesn't matter, right? So your pretty much model is kind of like a variable, right? It's just the rig. That's all it is. It's just the rig, right? So comma space, and then you're gonna say chance. So this is the chance of it spawning, right? So pretty much, yeah, this is the chance of it spawning. So obviously, lower the number, the lower the chance it has of spawning. The higher the number, the higher the chance it has of spawning. So you're more rare and legendary NPCs, you want them to have low numbers. So I'm just gonna set this to be 10, right? And then and all you're gonna do is just very important, make sure there's a comma at the end. Make sure there's a comma all the way at the end of each line, except the last one. You don't need one you don't need one for the last line, but it doesn't do anything. It won't cause any issues if you do. So press enter, and then we'll just paste, then we'll just paste again, and then yeah. And then literally all you have to do is just simply just change it for the next one. So we have Tim Cheese. Now we're gonna do Tapa D Pharaoh, right? And then we're gonna update the chance to be 50% chance of spawning. Come down here. Let's do our last one. Nubini Pisanini, right? And then we're just gonna set this to be 90. This is a common NPC, right? Very simple. So that's setting up the chances and stuff, right? That's the chance table, right? Then we're going to set up the function that actually chooses the random NPC. So we're going to say function. Here's how you create functions on module scripts. You're going to say the word function. You're going to say core module. So whatever, the name you put right here, right? So core module dot, and then the function name. Choose random NPC. Now in parentheses, we need the base, right? Because obviously NPC spawning is, specific for each individual base. Then press enter, because we need the end at the end. Then we're going to create a variable called total weight is equal to 0, right? We're just going to add up all of the, chances and stuff. So we're just going to use a for loop. So for I comma v in I pairs. Then you're just simply going to say NPCs, because it's already a list or a table. Press enter. Then you're just going to say total weight plus equal v dot chance. Now v is each individual line pretty much. V is just pretty much each. Oh, bad. Especially plus equal. It's pretty much each line. That's why we say v dot chance, because it's, there are two things. There's the model, then there's the chance, right? So we're just adding up the total chance and stuff. So it is just going to add up 10, 50, 90, which is just 150, right? And then next thing, we're going to choose a random weight. So create a variable for random weight, which is equal to math dot random. So we're just going to generate a random number. Then we're just going to multiply that times the total weight. Then we're going to create a variable for current, called current. So current is equal to 0, right? Then we're going to use a for loop. We're going to say for I comma v in I pairs NPCs, right? Press enter. You're going to do the same thing again. So current plus equal v dot chance. We're going to go through it, right? And what we're simply going to do is we're going to just see which one was selected. You're going to say if random weight is less than or equal to current, press enter, then you're going to trigger the function we just created, the function we're about to create, core module dot spawn NPC, right? In parentheses, you're going to put v dot model, right? Model, right? Then you're going to say dot rig, right? Very important, because keep in mind, NPC folder, right? That's what these three are. These three. But we need to get the rig. We want the rig. So that's why we said model, which is the folder. It pretty much is just another word for the folder. I feel like I probably should rename this. Instead of model, it should be. I think I'm gonna do that to help. Can I mean, yeah, let's do that. Let's do it. Rename this real quick. Rename this to be folder. So just Control C, Control V, Control V, because I want this to like make sense to people. Stuff. So folder, right? And stuff. Now keep in mind, folder as in the specific NPC folder, not this folder. That's the main NPC folder, right? This is just the specific NPC folder, right? So that's our folder, then folder.rig. That's why I said it's important for each individual like rig to be named rig. Like it has to be named rig, right? Then last thing, um, so .rig, and then obviously we need to clone it, right? Make sure you clone it. If you don't clone it, what's going to happen is it's going to use it once and it'll be gone forever. So make sure you clone it, then comma, send over the base, right? Because we want to spawn to the specific base. Then one last important thing, make sure you put a break. The reason for that is, let's say like the numbers like, I don't know, 40 or something, and you have like 20 NPCs that have a chance of spawning. What it'll do is it'll choose a random one, but the thing is, you don't want it to choose multiple. You only want it to do one. You only want it to run one time. So that's why you put the break, because it's gonna break out of the loop and stuff. It's just gonna run once, and then that's it. Once it chooses that one. Okay. So now we're done with the choose random NPC function. Now for the spawn NPC function. So we're gonna make sure we set everything properly here. So just like we learned, function core module dot spawn NPC in parentheses the NPC, comma base. So pretty much press enter. So NPC is pretty much the rig. That's essentially the rig, right? That's been sent over. So you're going to create a variable for the specific NPC folder. So specific NPC folder is equal to, and then you're just going to say NPC folder, um, NPC folder, regular bracket. Then you're going to say npc.npc name.value. Now to explain this part, okay, so NPC folder, which is clearly this main folder, right? Specific NPC folder is for that specific NPC, right? So it would be this one or that one, right? And then remember, npc.npc name.value. Remember, that's this value, which should be the name of the NPC. That's why we have it. So that's why I said it's important to make sure you have it set up and everything. Now, for the next step, we're going to start creating some values. First thing is money. This is going to keep track of how much money the NPC has made you. So money is equal to instance.new, quotation marks. So you could obviously just manually create this and just put this inside of your rig if you wanted to. The reason why I didn't do that is because this is something that could just be created via script, so that way you don't have to like manually create the value for each individual NPC. Things like the health, money per second, and rarity, like no, you have to create that manually. Like it literally makes no sense to manually do that on a script like that. Wouldn't save time. That's just more complicated and a waste of time. So yeah, we're gonna create this money value. We're gonna say money.name is equal to, of course, money. I wouldn't understand why, but if you wanted to set the default value to anything but zero, that's up to you. But I'm just gonna set it to zero. Then of course you're going to parent it to the NPC. My bad, NPC not NPC folder. Then you could really just copy and paste this to save time. Save time. So copy, press enter, paste. Right. Let's space out. Let's space out the values and stuff. Right. And then next thing, status. Now this is going to be a string value. This is going to keep track of the NPC's current status. So what we're gonna do is, right, obviously we're gonna update this. So we're just gonna Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V. So just paste, boom. So status, the value needs to be a string. So by default, set this to be inactive. My plan is to have it set to inactive if it's just walking along the if it's just walking along the track, and then set it to active if the player um puts it on a platform and stuff, right? And then if the player, like, let's say, sells the NPC or takes it off the platform, whatever reason and stuff, it'll set its value back to inactive, then it'll stop making money. So that's the plan for that. Status variable is just to keep track of like the current status of the NPC, of like what it is they're doing and stuff, right? So then we're gonna set all the, remember this stuff inside of the info GUI. We're gonna set all that stuff now. So npc.head.info GUI dot name text label. This is obviously the name. So dot text is equal to specific NPC folder dot name. Next thing, NPC dot head dot info GUI. This time it's gonna be the rarity text label dot text, and then you're just gonna say it's equal to specific NPC folder dot rarity dot value. Now the health is where things get a little different. So you're gonna say NPC dot head dot info GUI again. This time health text label, right? Dot text is equal to, and then what you're gonna do is you're gonna say specific NPC folder dot health. This is the starting health for the NPC dot health dot value, right? Dot health dot value dot quotation marks slash, because the left side is going to be the current amount of health they have, and then the right side will be the maximum amount of health they can have. So specific NPC folder dot health dot value. Obviously by default this would be like, it would be both and stuff because the NPC just spawned it, so it would be at max health. Then you're gonna say dot quotation marks capital H and P, so HB, right? One other thing I did forget to mention. Okay, so actually, yeah, two things, very important things. Okay, so let's say your NPCs are walking too fast down the tracks, or they're moving too slow. You simply would go to the humanoid and you would just change their walk speed. Like they work just like a player. Just change their walk speed and stuff. Decrease it if you want them to walk slower, increase it if you want them to walk faster. And then also the health. Now, what you could do is you could manually set the health, but I'm gonna help you all out. Because walk speed is pretty simple. I don't think people change the walk speed for each NPC, but the health and stuff, you'd have to manually change that. But instead, what we can do is we can go right here actually, and we can just simply say npc dot humanoid dot health is equal to specific NPC folder dot health dot value. This way, all you need to do is just create the health value and then just set it accordingly, and then the script will automatically update the NPC's health so that when they spawn in, it'll reflect that. So yeah. From there, you're going to say npc.humanoid. You're going to set this function up. So npc.humanoid.health changed, connect, parentheses, put function, in parentheses, then parentheses again, put amount, press enter. Then literally same thing, just copy and paste this. So Control C, Control V, right? And then the only difference is you're just going to change this part to just be amount. Amount is simply like the new amount of health they have and stuff, like whatever the new value is, like the updated version of their health, right? Then after that, you're going to parent the NPC. So npc.parent is equal to base.npcs. So remember that is the folder right here, right? This folder, we're parenting it to that folder. We want to keep track of them. Then we're going to set network ownership. Now, if you don't understand what that means, that's okay. I didn't know what that meant until a month ago. So pretty much, if you don't do this, what will happen is it'll cause your game to like not lag, but like it'll cause the NPCs to get delayed. Like they'll like if you press play and you're testing this stuff, after like about 5 to 10 minutes, they'll start slowing down. Like they'll start like walking slower. They'll be stopping at each individual checkpoint, and that's because the network ownership by default is set to the player and stuff. But we're gonna set it to the server so that the server can kind of like the best way I can explain this is like the server is pretty much handling the ownership of the parts and stuff because the NPCs have so many parts and stuff like that. It's handling that, so it's taking the load off of the player's device kind of thing. So yeah, so then for I comma v in I pairs. And we're going to say NPC get descendants, close parentheses, press enter, right? You're going to say if V is a part or V is a mesh part. We need to account for both R15 and R6 models, so press enter, right? Then what you're going to do is you're going to say V dot collision, very important, make sure you set the collision group. So collision group, I did not spell that right, hold on. COL. Yep, ISIO. Yep, collision group. Okay. So collision group is equal to mutation mark NPCs. Very important. You guys remember we're right here. If I go up here, this stuff, right? All we did here is create the collision groups and say, okay, this is how they should interact with one another. You have to actually set the collision group for the NPC. So make sure it's set to exactly whatever you have right there. So NPCs, right? Then and then this is the actual network ownership. So you're gonna say v set network owner, then in parentheses you set it to nil, which just simply sets it to the server, right? Then you're going to skip those two ends after that for loop. Then you're going to say npc pivot, or wait. Oh, sorry, my bad. We need to first come up with the random. Yeah, we needed the random stuff first. My bad. So now what we need to do is we need to randomize their spawn, right? Because you know the NPCs can spawn at any one of the. You remember inside of the spawners we have five, or you guys may have more. And then let me just double check. Okay, we're good. So as you can see, we have five spawners, right? So we want to randomly select one of them for the NPCs to spawn at, right? Remember these. So what we're gonna do is it's very simple. We're just going to say create a variable for a random number. So let's generate a random number real quick. Math.random from 1 to 5. Okay, very important, very important. So, right, I have five spawners, so I'm going to say 1 to 5 because the way this works is it's going to generate a random number between 1 to 5. So, if you have six spawners, 1 to 6. If you have eight, 1 to 8. If you have three, 1 to 3. Okay, very simple, very easy, not too difficult to explain or to understand. So 1 to 5, right? Then we're going to choose a random spawner. So random spawner is then equal to base dot spawners, this group right here, base dot spawners, regular bracket, quotation mark, spawner, keep in mind, capital S, spawner, right? You see how it's the name? Then you're gonna throw it at the end, dot dot dot, random number, right? I think you guys understand how this works. The word spawner is always gonna be the same, but the random number will obviously change for each thing. So random number. So it's gonna say spawner, then it'll fill in whatever number it was randomly generated here, and then it'll choose that to be the spawner. Then you'll simply just say NPC pivot to, and then you're going to say random spawner dot cframe, and now our NPC has been spawned into the world. Okay, right? Now we've spawned the NPC, right? We have spawned it. That's wonderful. But now what we need to do is decide what lane is it going to go down, and we also need to decide. We also need to decide what we also need to make the, or not decide, but we need to write the code for the NPC actually moving. All we've done is just set its properties and everything, and just it just looks nice, but it can't do anything. It's like a car. It's like a car that has no gas. It looks nice, but yeah, it looks nice, but you know. So from here, what we're gonna do is we are going to press enter, create a table. So possible lanes is equal to empty special, so special brackets, so just empty. Then you can use a for loop for I comma v and I pairs. You're going to say base dot lanes. That would be right here. Our lanes. These lanes. I only have one right now. Of course you guys can have more. Of course you guys can have more. I just have one right now. I'll probably add more just so that like people can um feel more comfortable and see everything. Why not? So base dot lanes. And get children. So to get the total amount of lanes, press enter. Then create a variable. So lane is equal to v, right? Then you're going to say if lane, very important. You need to make sure the player owns the lane, okay? So if lane dot purchaser, remember inside the lane you have the purchaser. So if lane dot purchaser dot is purchased, remember that value right there, that bool value right there, that value is set to is equal to true, which means they purchased it. Press enter, then you'll add it to the table. So table dot insert possible lanes, comma, then the lane, right? You're adding the instance, not the lane's name, the instance, right? So then you're gonna skip those two ends. Then you're gonna create a variable total possible lanes. So what is pretty much so this is possible lanes. This pretty much means all the lanes you currently own. Total possible means what's it called? Total possible is pretty much just the number of possible lanes because this is a list of the lanes instance and stuff. If you guys don't understand, that means like this. This is the instance of it, this model right here. But what we want is a number. This total possible lanes is the actual number. Like that pound symbol, that's a number, right? That's saying like you want the number of whatever this is. So possible lanes, right? Oh my bad, I forgot the equal sign. So it is equal to number of possible. This pretty much just means number of whatever you put after. So possible lanes, right? Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna use an if statement. So if total possible lanes is equal to 0, press enter, then you're gonna destroy the NPC. Close parentheses, you're gonna destroy the NPC and return. Because if there's no open lane, then we can't spawn NPCs. However, if there is, so else, if there is open lanes, you're going to generate a second random number. So second random number is equal to math.random. So you're gonna set this to 1. This should be 1 for everybody, comma, total possible lanes. So out of those possible lanes, it's gonna choose 1. If you only have 1, it'll choose a random number from 1 to 1, which would just be 1 and stuff, right? But yeah, so then you're gonna create a variable for said lane. So lane is equal to base dot lanes, regular bracket, quotation mark. Again, same concept, right? Same concept as the spawners. Lane, go on the outside, dot, 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 second random number, and then it'll choose that lane. So lane 1, 2, or 3, whatever the case, right? Then once we have that lane, we're going to then move on to the next function. Core module dot NPC move. We're about to create that in a second. So this is what moves the NPC like down the lanes. So NPC move, we're going to pass over the NPC as well as the specific lane they're going to be moving down, right? Now I'm just making sure we're good. Okay, we're good. See, guys, the video's already 40 minutes long and stuff. That's why I should try to break everything up for you guys so that it's not too much to overwhelm y'all. Okay, so we have that. Now, moving on, I think, okay, so there are 2 functions left, but this is like the last major function, and then the last thing is it's like 5 lines of code. So skip the 2 ends, but stay before the return core module. Now, for this, you're gonna say function core module, right? Function core module dot npc move. In parentheses, you're gonna put npc comma lane. Press enter on the outside. So first things first, you're gonna create a variable for your checkpoint number. So checkpoint number, set this to 0 by default. Now keep in mind, inside the lanes we have our checkpoints, right? These, so checkpoint number by default should be set to 0. What you're gonna do is you're going to say npc dot humanoid colon move to lane regular bracket quotation marks, put checkpoint, right? Then go on the outside, or wait, no, sorry, stay on the inside. Dot 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 checkpoint number. Then go in between. Then you're gonna say dot position. So pretty much what's going on, right? So whatever lane it chooses, for me, it would only choose lane 1 if I have it purchased, right? What it's gonna do is it's gonna automatically the NPC is gonna move to that first one. So checkpoint and then checkpoint number, which is wait. Oh, my bad. I'm stupid. Sorry. My bad, guys. Set this to 8. Set this to 8, not 0, not 0, not 0. Okay. Well, actually, let me explain this real quick. Right? Okay. So what it's gonna do is it's gonna move to that first checkpoint, right? I'm looking at it. I'm like, there's the checkpoint 0. But anyway, it's going to move to that first checkpoint you want it to go to. And then we're going to set up a function so that once it reaches that first one, okay, now on to the next one, then the next one, then the next one until it's done. Now I want to explain something real quick. You're going to set the checkpoint number to whatever like order you place these in. So I probably should have did this. I did it kind of backwards. I realized that. So you notice how here we have checkpoint 1, like we started over here from like the purchaser. So obviously we don't want it to walk straight to checkpoint 1. We want it to go 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? So that's why I'm starting at 8. Let's say yours is right here and you named it checkpoint 1, then you would set this to be 1, right? But since I started at 8, I'm going to decrement. I'm going to go 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Oh my bad, until we reach the end, right? So, oh my bad, wrong script. So then we're going to start at 8, and that's going to move to that first point, right? Then we're going to set up the animation track so that when the NPCs move, their walk animation will play. So AT short for animation track is equal to NPC dot humanoid dot animator colon load animation. In parentheses, you're going to put NPC dot walk animation. Then you're going to play it. AT play. Right? Right? Then we're going to set up our move function. So create a variable for it. So move function is equals to nil by default. We're going to want to disconnect it once the NPC reaches their destination. So we're going to say move function is equal to NPC dot humanoid dot move to finish. This is going to be our function. Connect in parentheses function. And then in parentheses you put reach, but we're not going to use it right now. Press enter. So pretty much this function will be triggered every time they reach. You see move to and then move to finish. So once it's finished moving, pretty much. So then what you're going to do is you're going to say checkpoint number. Now for me, I'm going to put minus equal. Do that anyway. What that means is you're decrementing. So you're going down, right? Like you're going down. But that's what I'm doing. Let's say for you, my checkpoint 8 is your checkpoint 1, and then you went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Let's say you do that. You want to increment, which means you want to increase, you want to go up. So then you would change this to be plus, right? So, but I want it to be minus because I'm going down 8 to 1 because I did mine backwards, right? So if you did yours like mine, you're perfectly fine. Don't worry. I'm just explaining this for people who may have done it a little differently. So then after that, you're gonna say if checkpoint number is equal to 1, again, this is also applies to, since I'm going down, once I reach the last checkpoint, then that means the NPC needs to be destroyed. If you're going up, this means when you reach the highest number, which would be 8, you set this to 8 instead of 1. So yeah. So 1, this means you reach the final checkpoint. So then you would say NPC destroy because it's reached the final one, right? And then you would disable the move function, or disconnect it, I should say. So disconnect, then press enter, else, and then you're just gonna move the NPC. So just really copy and paste this. Control C, Control V. It'll continue to move until it reaches the end. Then you can skip the 2 ends. Then we're just gonna have some performance stuff at the end. Or actually, wait. Oh, actually, no, never mind, never mind. Actually, yeah, it's from the other series, but that doesn't really matter for this. Never mind. Okay. So then we're done with that. We have one last function, and then we are done, guys. I know it's been a lot covered in this video, but this is the most important thing. So function core module dot base spawner. This is the loop that's going to run for each base. So of course you have the specific base as a parameter or argument. Press enter. What you're going to do is you're going to say while base owner dot value is not equal to none, right? Pretty much when the player leaves and its value is set back to none, it'll stop spawning, pretty much, right? Even if another player joined like the exact time they were leaving, the value will still be set to none, even if it was like for a split second. So press enter. Then you're going to say core module dot choose random NPC. Keep in mind that's the whole thing we just did, and then send over the base. Then obviously task dot wait 3 seconds. You want a 3-second delay, but it's up to you guys for the delay. If you want 1 second, if you want 30 seconds, that's up to you guys and stuff. Completely up to you. And then just like that, we are done. Let's go ahead and test to make sure everything works. As always, if you guys want access to any one of my scripts or models for any one of my series, just simply read the description and find out how to gain access to that. Okay, so first things first, right? As you can see, I spawned, right? And if I reset the character, give it a second, I spawn at the player spawn. It's invisible, but it's right here, right? So, from there, as you guys notice, no NPCs are spawning, and that's because I don't currently own, there are no available lanes, so I don't own one. Now, if I buy one, boom, NPC starts spawning. As you can see, they spawn at a random one, and what it does is, one, the walk animation is playing, you have the rarity, the name, and their health, right? And then once they reach the end, they are destroyed, right? Very nice. So pretty much as you can see, they come from random ones. Obviously, the common NPCs are more likely to spawn. That's why we see mostly Noobing NPC and Mimi, and you're gonna see less Tim Cheese and stuff. These names are kind of crazy, but I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, but yeah, so they spawn at any one of the 5 spawners. Then what they do is they're going to choose a random one. Now, obviously, if I had like three or 4 open lanes, then obviously, it would choose one of those randomly. But yeah, so it's just gonna choose that, and it's gonna walk down until it reaches the end, and then it'll be destroyed. right now, if we open up the workspace, you'll notice they're all being kept inside of the NPC folder, all with the name rig and stuff, right? So boom, they're all spawning and everything. And yeah, and as you can see, I cannot interact. Wait, what? Oh, oh my. I'm glad I tested that. And this is why testing at the end is, see, and this is why you're not supposed to, I mean, to be fair, even if you can push, you can't really do much because like they're not going to stop moving until they reach their destination. So it doesn't really matter. But yeah. So they're all just gonna keep moving down there, and then yeah. Now I'm not totally sure why it's doing that. Wait, no, I realize. No, wait, no, wait, no. I think I remember now. I forgot to do. Yeah, I know what it is. I forgot to set the player. This. Yeah, okay. I see what we need to do. So the same way with the core module. Where is it? I did. Where is it? What? Oh, right there, right. How we did this, I forgot to do this for the player. So copy this, go to the server script, right? So right here, we need to do this twice. So press enter right here. You're gonna paste this, and then what you're gonna say is you're going to say player dot character get descendants, and you're gonna say visa part, yeah, mesh part, and then vita collision group. Now, make sure very important. Make sure this is at the players and not NPC, I mean, not NPCs, right? Make sure that's at the players. So because that is what I need to write. Play, yeah, yeah. So players and set no. You don't need to do the set network owner though. The set network owner, yeah, yeah, that part doesn't matter. That's just for NPCs. All right. So set the collision group for the players, and then you're just gonna copy this. And then inside of this, because this is the actual function that will run every time they respawn. So paste, and then just remove the player, and yeah. Okay. Now let's test the collision groups. This is why I always test at the end of the video, guys. Okay. So now we'll buy a lane. The NPCs will start spawning any second now. There we go. Okay, now look, he'll go. Yep, pass it straight. Yep, pass it straight to me. Can't push him and stuff. So boom. Yep, that simple. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed part 3. Sorry again for the long wait. Guys, try to be patient and stuff. I'll be busy with school and whatnot, but don't worry, there are more parts coming. As long as you guys continue to show the series love and support, I got more and more parts coming for y'all and stuff. If you enjoyed this video, definitely leave a like and subscribe. As always, if you guys find any bugs or any issues, let me know in the comments. I will address them in the next video. Stuff. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Part 4 will probably be I guess it would be the plants because it wouldn't really make sense. Yeah, it wouldn't really make sense to make this the system to where you can place brain rots if you don't have a system that first kills them so that you can own them. Yeah, we need like an inventory system and stuff like that, keep track of all that. So yeah. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Yeah, just show support, and part 4 will be out soon. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.